Pause for a moment and pay close attention, because no one has dared to share this with you before. There exists a spiritual truth so profound that once you recall it, nothing and no one will ever have power over you again. This truth has been concealed for ages, yet hidden wisdom disclosed precisely where to uncover it. But wait, it's not solely about ancient times. I'm here to demonstrate that the instant you grasp this concept, your soul will awaken to its true identity. Everything that currently feels perplexing in your life will begin to align seamlessly. Do you realize why you experience that void, that feeling like something is lacking? It's because the entire world has conspired to make you forget your genuine nature. They've conditioned you to become a version of yourself that isn't authentic. While you remain in this state of forgetfulness, you comply, you consume, you conceal your true self. But today marks a turning point. I'm on the verge of revealing the location of the secret that has been concealed for centuries. However, first, it's crucial for you to comprehend this. Everything you are searching for externally already resides within you, awaiting your recall. By the end of this video, I will disclose where that memory is concealed, not in an ancient shrine nor in a venerable text, but in something you possess daily that you've overlooked. Are you prepared? Because once you learn this, there's no turning back. Now that you realize they concealed the key that liberates your soul, it's time to uncover what has been hidden for centuries. The astonishing aspect is that civilizations that never physically interacted, divided by vast oceans and towering mountains, spoke of the very same truth. How can that be? That there was no internet, no telephones, no shared texts at that time. Yet in Egypt, India, and Greece, masters asserted that at birth, the soul does not awaken. It lies dormant. For the modern individual, birth signifies the initiation of everything. However, for these ancient societies, birth marked the commencement of forgetfulness. They hold the belief that the soul originated from a realm of clarity, a place devoid of division, where the awareness of your authentic self thrived vibrantly. Yet, as you entered the physical form, something occurs. It's like a curtain falling over your vision, akin to a haze veiling what you once understood but can no longer reach. In ancient Egypt, it was said that the flesh is not inherently flawed. The true issue lies in the perception of being merely the body. Meanwhile, in India, ancient sages referred to this forgetting as Maya, the grand illusion. Similarly, the Orphic philosopher of Greece described the soul's descent into a repetitive cycle of confinement, losing sight of its divine roots. Notice the common thread. Distinct cultures articulating the same fundamental truth. Yet what is particularly intriguing is that this wisdom wasn't documented in texts meant for general consumption. It wasn't featured in scrolls displayed in public areas or shared in community lectures. Such profound insights were communicated quietly from teacher to student during exclusive sessions in secluded chambers within temples where only a select few could enter. Why was this the case? Because they recognized that not everyone was equipped to embrace this truth. If an unprepared individual were to encounter this knowledge, their ego might weaponize it for feelings of superiority, to manipulate others, or even to avoid reality rather than transforming it. These teachers understood that genuine wisdom can only be shared when the heart is pure. It's insufficient to simply desire knowledge. One must also be ready to embody what they learn. This is why silence served as the greatest protector of these mysteries within the temples of Egypt, the ashrams of India, and the mysteries of Greece. Silence holds no deceit. Those in search of quick fixes left feeling unfulfilled. Conversely, those who engaged in silence began to perceive something not inscribed anywhere. So, what truly unfolded within these sacred temples? What kind of transformative experiences allowed a soul that had forgotten its essence to ultimately remember its true identity? What was the concealed process safeguarded from view that utterly transformed those who experienced it? That's what you're about to begin uncovering. In the upcoming section, we will step through the thresholds of those temples and unveil what transpired in the secret chambers that few had the courage to enter. Prepare yourself, as what you are about to witness is not merely a symbolic ceremony, it's a profound experience that alters the essence of the soul permanently. When the gates of those temples close behind the chosen ones, what occurred within was not a performance meant to dazzle anyone. There were no spectators, no theatrics. Only solitude and darkness surrounded them because, before the soul could recall its true identity, it first needed to relinquish the falsehood of who it thought it was. That's where the crossing commenced, a crossing few could withstand. The initiates were guided into a secluded space devoid of light and sound. Here, they were immersed in an intense state of stillness where even thoughts began to lose their significance. Gradually, something within them started to disintegrate. It wasn't the physical form that was relinquished, but the persona they had carried for years. All the narratives they constructed about themselves began to collapse. The name, the job, the status, and the opinions, none held any value anymore. Thoth taught that this was the pivotal moment, the instant the ego, realizing it was losing its grip, attempted to fight back. It unleashed fears, doubts, and even false visions to tether the initiate to their previous identity. Because for the ego, the thought of death is intolerable, even if that death is merely symbolic. And here comes the most astonishing part of the process. The initiate did not receive new insights. No one elucidated the meaning of existence to them. No sage instructed them on their subsequent steps. True wisdom doesn't stem from external sources. It arises when all that is false falls away. What remains is what was always present but had been overlooked. Imagine for a moment facing complete emptiness. No labels, no beliefs, no narratives to hold on to. Just you laid bare before your own awareness. For many, this experience proved too overwhelming. Some lost their resolve midway, while others descended into madness, frantically reconstructing their facades. Yet those who persevered encountered a transformation that altered everything. They understood that there was nothing novel to discover. Rather, it was about recollection. They remembered a truth so profound that language fell short. It was as if, in that fleeting instant, everything clicked into place: existence, the cosmos, life, and death. All things harmonized in complete stillness. But not everyone could handle that revelation. Here lies Thoth's caution. Venturing through that threshold unprepared posed significant dangers, as awakening too rapidly could fracture the mind. Picture someone burdened with unresolved traumas and unexamined fears, suddenly confronted with the vastness of their true self. It might prove overwhelming. Thus, the greatest peril lies in crossing without readiness and losing one's way. Once you glimpse what lies beyond, it remains etched in your memory forever. But what if you're unsure of how to process it? What if your mind distorts what your soul perceived, crafting yet another illusion instead of liberation? This is precisely why the masters advised, do not pursue this crossing out of mere curiosity. Do not tread this path solely for quick solutions, because if you try to recall your true self without first clearing the debris in your consciousness, you risk fostering even greater confusion. And now an unavoidable question arises. What happens to someone who crosses without preparation? What occurs when an individual taps into this profound memory without possessing the inner resilience to support it? That inquiry leads us into the next segment. The revelations from Thoth regarding the dangers inherent in this journey will illuminate why so many remain ensnared in an invisible cycle, even after encountering significant spiritual truths. And now that you're aware of the dangers of exploring your identity prematurely, it's evident that there's a primary hurdle to confront. An unseen barrier that governs nearly every aspect of your existence, they referred to it as the deception of the self. This is where many individuals surrender without even knowing it. After all, who possesses the bravery to gaze into the mirror and acknowledge that they've spent their entire life under a false impression of themselves? This represents the initial obstacle. It isn't external. It's not some outside force trying to hinder you. It resides within. It's the cumulative result of everything you believe about yourself. The issue is that from a young age, you were taught to adopt beliefs that weren't inherently yours. Someone influenced your perceptions of love, success, failure, and even your own identity, and you accepted these ideas, not out of ill intent, but for the simple reason that no one encouraged you to question them. Now, I pose this question to you. How often during your day do you take a moment to reflect on your thoughts? How frequently have you inquired about their origins? Because a substantial portion of your daily thoughts isn't genuinely your own creation. They are mere automatic reflections of what you've heard, seen, or gone through in the past. Programs operate quietly in the background, like an application you didn't even realize was running. Yet, they're draining your energy. This is where the first authentic practice of this journey begins. It's not some distant mysticism. It's straightforward, direct, and simultaneously challenging. Observe a negative thought that arises in your mind. Select one that frequently appears when you're feeling tired, unsure, or frustrated. Next, pose the question that Thoth taught his disciples. Is this truly mine, or was this imposed on me? It may sound uncomplicated, yet that question can dismantle structures you've upheld for years, because once you understand that much of your emotional suffering didn't originate from your true self but was acquired, something within begins to transform. This isn't destruction, it's liberation. Each thought you challenge is a link that falls away. However, there lies a delicate aspect. The ego, which was created specifically to safeguard this false identity, will resist. It will attempt to persuade you that releasing these beliefs poses a threat. It will assert that without these ideas, you risk losing your identity. Yet the reality is that you were never those ideas. They were merely supports for a self that hesitated to confront the void. And within that void, change begins. As the old narratives dissolve, a quiet emerges. Initially, this quiet may seem daunting. After all, your entire life has been about filling that quiet with mental chatter. However, over time, you come to understand that this silence is not devoid of substance. It's an expanse for something new to take shape, or perhaps for something ancient to resurface. Because when the first illusion fades, a part of you that has been dormant since the beginning starts to awaken. It isn't a new ability or a gift bestowed upon you. Rather, it's a latent memory that begins to emerge like a resonance within you. When this memory surfaces, everything you once held as true about life starts to diminish in significance. Your past motivations may seem trivial now. The concerns that once consumed your thoughts start to feel hollow. Even if the world outside remains unchanged, something within has already shifted. And that transformation is merely the initiation of a deeper journey, for when that essence stirs, it starts to direct your life in ways you've never experienced before. But what is this quiet presence that awakens when the false self crumbles? How does it lead you? And why is it that almost no one can maintain this awareness for an extended time? As that memory stirs within you, something intriguing occurs. For the first time, you perceive a way of seeing that is independent of your physical eyes, a quiet perception that does not analyze, judge, or interpret. It simply observes. They referred to this as the single eye, not in the sense of a literal eye or a mystical icon, but rather a mode of awareness where truth requires no explanation because it is felt before it materializes as thought. And perhaps you've experienced this before, even if only fleetingly. It's that moment when you step into a room and for no discernible reason sense that something isn't right, or when you encounter someone and despite the courteous conversation, perceive that they're concealing something. This phenomenon of the single eye operates unbeknownst to you. It's your soul attuning to the deeper truths beneath the surface, but why is this ability so muted in many individuals? From the moment you were born, you were conditioned to prioritize visual information over feelings. Society has exalted logic, reason, and cold hard facts while neglecting the quiet intuition that has always been present. The challenge is that the eyes observe only the external facade, whereas the single eye discerns what lies beneath. Here's a straightforward yet transformative technique that Thoth imparted to his followers. Take a moment to close your eyes and cease your quest for answers. Still the chatter in your mind. Don't anticipate anything spectacular. Simply remain silent for 10 seconds. 10 seconds in which you avoid searching, thinking, or expecting. Just immerse yourself in the sensation. Within that brief moment of stillness, something begins to surface. Initially, it may seem like nothing, but this nothing encompasses everything. For it's in that silence that the single eye begins to awaken. In that instant, you temporarily detach from the mental clamor and recognize that a more profound phenomenon is unfolding within you, something nameless and formless, which doesn't require justification. Why is this so vital? Because if you continue to seek answers within the confines of your mind, all you will uncover are mere concepts. Yet when you start to engage with this direct perception, clarity doesn't manifest as thought. It presents itself as insight. A form of clarity that transcends words, for it is already complete in itself. However, there's a significant caveat. This perception marks just the inception of your journey. It's akin to creating a small opening in a door that has remained shut for ages. Light begins to seep through, but there's still a more profound truth concealed on the other side. Recognizing the truth is merely the initial step. Living in accordance with that truth is an entirely different challenge. The following phase requires something that cannot be provided by any external source. No teacher, no literature, no video. It pertains to the distinct vibration of your soul. This essence cannot be imparted through instruction. It is something that only you can truly experience. From this moment forward, this is what you will begin to pursue. In the forthcoming segment, you will unveil the silent resonance residing within you. This is a sound that has never been articulated, yet has been quietly resonating since your soul's inception. Once you uncover that sound, everything begins to clarify. There's a vibration residing within you from the very start of your existence. It lacks words. It is not a sound you can produce vocally or detect with your ears. It is a quiet frequency, a vibration so profound that the majority of individuals go through their entire lives oblivious to its presence. They referred to it as the invisible name. However, it is not a name like John, Mary, or any other mundane title. It is the sound that encapsulates your true self without requiring letters. Perhaps you have already sensed it, albeit without an ability to articulate it. You know that fleeting moment of tranquility when, for a brief instance, everything aligns perfectly, despite no external changes. Or that strong intuition that suddenly surfaces when your mind is still clouded, yet something inside you already understands the path forward. It is in those quiet moments, in those subtle pauses, that this vibration becomes apparent. It manifests not as a thought, but as a profound certainty. And why is it referred to as the invisible name? Because unlike the names you were given in the world, this name does not confine you. It does not define you by profession, nationality, or appearance. It embodies the pure vibration of your being. It acts as your soul's signature in the cosmos, unique and entirely yours. The fascinating reality is that often unconsciously you have already perceived this sound, not with your ears, but with your heart. And it's called to you since the very moment you entered this world. Yet the clamor of daily life and the chatter in your mind have obscured it. The frantic routine, anxieties, and diversions have layered over that initial resonance time and again. However, it has never vanished. It simply lay dormant, waiting for you to cultivate enough stillness to hear it anew. Once you begin to pick up that inner frequency, your perspective on the world shifts significantly. You come to understand that the solutions you sought externally were always nestled within. The sense of emptiness wasn't about a lack of outside fulfillment, but rather the disconnection from that inner essence. When this connection ignites, there's no reverting back to your former self. Yet be aware, for an important point is coming up. As that vibration wakes, it doesn't solely illuminate peace and clarity. It also sheds light on all that has been concealed within you. This includes even the aspects you've attempted to bury. Traumas, fears, and forgotten memories you've buried deep to avoid feeling them again begin to surface. Your soul's resonance not only reminds you of your identity, but also brings forth what you aim to erase. This is the next threshold you must cross. Remembering your true self isn't merely about experiencing tranquility and illumination. It's also about summoning the bravery to confront the parts you've kept hidden. When these aspects emerge, you face two paths: flee from them and return to the illusion, or confront them and finally liberate yourself. It is in that moment, as the tranquil tone of your soul grows more robust, that an inevitable occurrence takes place. The remembrance of your authentic self is accompanied by the recollections of past pains encountered along the journey. True light cannot shine without casting light upon hidden shadows. Here's where many tend to falter, as seeking peace may feel simple, but confronting the pain is a different matter altogether. They referred to this journey as soul purification, not as a punishment or agony inflicted by another, but rather as an inherent purification. Picture your soul like a river that over time has become obstructed with rocks and debris. The current still exists, yet it's impeded. The process of purification is simply about allowing that water to flow freely once more. However, to achieve that, you must summon the bravery to confront everything that has become stuck in there. And what are those pains? They are the memories you've sought to erase, wounds from childhood that you never had the opportunity to mend, hurtful words that you repeated quietly to yourself for years. Experiences that led you to think you weren't sufficient, that you weren't worthy of love, that you couldn't trust anyone. All of this has been buried deep within your memory, hidden away because it's too painful to recall. But here lies the most crucial insight of this section. The suffering persists only because you refuse to acknowledge it. Each time you flee from the pain, it amplifies. Every time you conceal your feelings, it becomes an added burden within you. Yet, when you make the choice to confront it head-on, instead of avoiding it, something transformative occurs. The pain starts to dissolve. Not through confrontation, but because you have finally accepted what you spent your entire life denying. It's akin to affirming, yes, that occurred. Yes, I endured. But that doesn't determine my identity. In that moment, the pain relinquishes its grip on you. It transitions into merely a memory, no longer a prison. And do you know what unfolds once that purification begins? Your soul starts to take charge of your existence. For the first time, your mind stops being in control and becomes just an instrument. Up until this point, the mind has been dictating the tempo, determining what you believed, what you feared, and what you shunned. However, when the soul awakens, it doesn't bellow commands. Instead, it guides in a quiet manner filled with clarity and tranquility. This is the juncture where many individuals first encounter a kind of inner stillness they've never known before. It's not emptiness, it's a sense of fullness. It's not about eliminating thoughts entirely. Rather, it's about liberating yourself from their dominance. This brings us to a crucial question that leads to the next stage of this exploration. If the soul now takes the lead, what becomes of the mind that has been in control for so long? Will it simply vanish? Or will it seek to reclaim its authority in some way? In the following section, you will uncover the reality of what transpires when the soul assumes responsibility and the mind relinquishes its long-held position. Until now, you have been peeling away the layers that obscured your true self. Yet when those layers drop away and your soul finally awakens, a profound transformation takes place, one from which there is no turning back. From this moment forward, your existence will no longer be governed by the mind's habitual reactions. You will begin to encounter something extraordinary. A life directed by awareness rather than fear. They referred to it as the waking trance. But take heed, this should not be confused with the kind of hypnotic trance that causes you to lose sense of self. Quite the opposite. In this state, your awareness is heightened. Your soul observes everything, experiences everything, yet is no longer swept away by emotional currents or restless thoughts. Imagine being amidst a bustling crowd, but within you resides such profound stillness that nothing can pull you from that center. This state does not represent an escape from life nor a form of isolation. It is life experienced with complete immersion. You still carry your responsibilities, confront your challenges, and nurture your relationships, but now, instead of merely being a participant within the narrative, you become the author, observing each scene unfold. Your mind continues to generate thoughts, but you no longer accept them blindly as truth. Emotions may still surface, yet you do not react impulsively to them. You experience feelings, but you do not lose yourself within them. And in that moment, something remarkable occurs. Time, which once felt oppressive, begins to expand. The constant sensation of urgency, of being late, of never having sufficient hours in the day, dissipates. Because when you inhabit the present, time doesn't race ahead. It stretches out before you. Every single moment, no matter how mundane, takes on a profound significance. Whether you're cleaning dishes or strolling along the sidewalk, you can find a tranquility that once felt unattainable amid the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Moreover, the feelings that once overwhelmed you begin to lose their grip. Anger no longer has control over you. Instead, you observe its emergence and release it without attachment. Anxiety ceases to immobilize you as you recognize it for what it is, a fleeting thought racing ahead to forecast what's to come. Sadness doesn't devolve into despair, thanks to your ability to accept it without merging your identity with it. It's like your spirit is asserting, "I exist, nothing can unbalance me." In this light, a personal space emerges where, for the first time, you can make choices instead of reacting instinctively, breaking free from ingrained habits to truly decide how to feel, think, and act. This inner liberation is something the ego could never provide. The ego thrives on conditioning, automatic reactions, and unconscious drives, while the soul operates differently. It is untethered, observing, understanding, and acting with clarity rather than from a place of control. Arguably, the most significant transformation occurs in your perspective of the world around you. When your soul takes center stage, people no longer appear as adversaries, rivals, or threats. Rather, you begin to see that everyone harbors their own pain and confusion, just as you have in the not-so-distant past. This realization sparks genuine compassion, not the contrived notion that mandates you to love everyone, but a deep, silent understanding that requires no justification. Now let's pose a question many might hesitate to ask. Is it truly feasible to maintain this state continuously? In the tranquility of a temple, during a spiritual retreat, or within meditation, it may seem straightforward to hold on to this clarity. But what happens when you return to the everyday world? With its chaotic traffic, looming deadlines, and familial and professional conflicts, can that inner serenity withstand the clash of daily life? This is the point where many individuals struggle, as the mind, which has been still for a while, begins to assert itself again. It murmurs, "This feels good, but it won't work in reality." Should you give in to that thought, you'll revert to your prior habits, slipping back into autopilot, rushing around, and being consumed by anxiety. The genuine difficulty lies not in awakening itself, but in maintaining that awakened state amid the turmoil. This is where genuine learning starts. Remembering your true self in a serene environment is uncomplicated. The challenge arrives when you need to recall who you are while under pressure from your boss, facing unjust criticism, or dealing with the unfairness of life. In those critical instances, you'll discover whether your soul has genuinely taken the lead or if it was merely a fleeting moment. In the next segment, we will explore that challenge deeper, how to maintain this presence amidst the chaos of the world, how to resist slipping back into ingrained behaviors when your soul has already been revitalized. Will the mind accept its diminished role, or will it struggle to regain dominance? This is where the true test begins, one that distinguishes those who merely experience a superficial awakening from those who genuinely embody the truth of their soul. Remembering who you are in silence, with your eyes closed, is straightforward. The real test arises when you return to the clamor of the world and strive to keep that memory alive while everything around you attempts to erode it. They often said, the genuine alchemist is the one who walks awake among the sleeping and does not allow them to put him back to sleep. That statement captures the essence of the challenge perfectly. The world doesn't pause for you to maintain your tranquility. The demands keep coming. The traffic doesn't relent. The news relentlessly inundates you with messages of fear and scarcity, and the individuals surrounding you, often unaware, persist in trying to draw you back into familiar patterns. Yet this is precisely when you get to decide who takes the lead, your soul or the clamor of the world. In practice, this journey commences with simple actions. The first step is cultivating conscious presence. This implies being fully engaged where your body is. If you're scrubbing dishes, immerse yourself in that task. If you're involved in a discussion, truly be there. Resist allowing your thoughts to wander into future concerns or become entrenched in past events. Although it appears straightforward, it's a continuous practice, since the mind, accustomed to unwinding on autopilot, will frequently attempt to evade reality. The second step involves nurturing active silence. Even in the midst of conflict, you can maintain an inner calm. In a bustling environment, you can still keep a segment of yourself serene. It's not about merely being quiet, it's about not reacting reflexively. It's that brief interval between a trigger and your response where you select how to respond, rather than simply acting out. The third aspect is to be mindful of what you take in, because everything you watch, listen to, and articulate influences your frequency. Consuming fear-laden news will lower your vibration. Being around constant complainers will drain your energy. Spending the day scrolling through superficial social media will scatter your focus. This is why curating what enters your mind serves as a form of spiritual safeguarding. With consistent application over time, this practice can change your life. Situations that once unsettled you turn into neutral experiences where you have the agency to determine your response. Individuals who once triggered you lose their hold because your tranquility is no longer contingent on them. The surrounding chaos that previously overwhelmed you now appears trivial against the vastness of your consciousness. However, here's the caveat Thoth warned about. The mind resists relinquishing control. It will attempt to reclaim its dominance, trying to persuade you that you're squandering time, that it's all nonsense, that such a way of living is impractical. In those moments, it's crucial to remember who's in charge. As you maintain this practice, something remarkable begins to unfold. Your awareness broadens to the extent that you start to access memories that had been concealed until this point. Memories that extend beyond this lifetime. You begin to experience flashes of different times, various locations, and alternate existences. This might manifest as a rich dream, a powerful intuition, or that familiar feeling of déjà vu. Even if rationality claims it's unfeasible, this is not mere fantasy. It is your soul tapping into records that have always existed, yet your limited consciousness has never comprehended. This raises a new question. If these memories are resurfacing, what else does your soul hold that remains unremembered? What secrets lie dormant, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? This is precisely what we will delve into next. Understanding who you are in this lifetime is merely the start. The genuine awakening occurs when you access the entirety of what your soul has always encompassed. As those memories begin to surface, you come to a realization that profoundly alters your perspective on your existence. What you believe to be the beginning of your narrative, your birth, is merely a brief pause in a much older manuscript. Thoth made it clear, your soul did not originate with your physical body. The body is temporary, while the soul endures through epochs. It has assumed many forms before arriving at who you think you are today. Those memories haven't vanished. They've simply gone into a dormant state, waiting for you to be prepared to remember. Yet these memories don't appear like scenes from an old film. Instead, they show up in your everyday life as repeating patterns that you find difficult to explain. Why do you keep attracting the same types of situations, the same categories of people, the same challenges? Why do certain feelings persist even after you change cities, jobs, or relationships? It's because your soul is attempting to reveal something unresolved from previous journeys. Every recurring situation that causes you significant discomfort is an echo of something you experienced before that requires understanding. And those ancient memories don't emerge solely to remind you of past hardships. They also carry talents that you possess without fully realizing why. That natural ease you experience when learning specific subjects, the intrinsic bond you feel with far-off cultures, the profound curiosity about topics that often escape others' attention. These are all indicators of past experiences your soul has encountered in different times and places. As you deepen your connection with your core self, those latent skills begin to emerge effortlessly. Yet, this is precisely where many individuals find themselves adrift. As they start to tap into these memories, the mind attempts to shape them into coherent stories, logical conclusions, and satisfying narratives. However, soul memories are not meant to serve the ego. Their purpose is to liberate your consciousness. Trying to manage this process simply leads to the creation of new illusions rather than uncovering the truth. Once the memories of previous lives begin to surface, a new challenge presents itself. These memories don't come neatly arranged or clearly articulated. Instead, they emerge as disjointed fragments and vague emotions that can be difficult to navigate alone. This is where many stumble. Confronted with the unfamiliar aspects within, most people look outside for books, mentors, gurus, and an array of courses, desperately trying to structure their feelings. In doing so, they relinquish their own journey to someone else who cannot experience it on their behalf. Yet Thoth was unequivocal about this matter. The genuine master, the one capable of guiding you along paths unseen by others, resides within. This source has always been an inner presence, communicating not through spoken language, but through your awakened consciousness. It's a quiet, subtle voice that doesn't aim to persuade you of anything, yet knows precisely what steps to take when you silence the distractions around you. This inner guidance does not convey its messages through logic, but rather through an inherent truth. It manifests as that instinctive certainty that precedes any thoughts that might arise, akin to a sense of tranquility that assures you, even amidst doubt, that you are following the correct path. This is often overlooked by those who are entrenched in the clamor of their thoughts. If you anticipate the inner master to deliver straightforward explanations, you'll likely miss the opportunity to hear him. So, how do you begin to tap into this voice in your everyday life? It's not about seeking additional information, but rather about posing fewer external inquiries and fostering greater inner stillness by creating gaps between one thought and the next. As you pursue quick responses, you inadvertently shut the door that the master seeks to enter through. He does not compete with your impatience. He simply waits for your stillness. This is why a fundamental exercise is incredibly straightforward. Whenever faced with a decision, take a moment to pause, close your eyes, breathe, and truly feel. Avoid thinking, just feel. What emerges first, prior to any thought? What comes to the surface in the empty space before your mind begins to debate? That's the voice. It won't attempt to persuade you, it will solely reveal itself. However, to perceive it, you must be open to observing without any expectations. Over time, you may discover that this voice does not provide immediate ease. Occasionally, it directs you toward the more challenging path because it's not focused on ensuring your comfort. It is invested in your growth and in helping you remember. And recall that such remembering can sometimes be uncomfortable. This is the reason many individuals shy away from genuine intuition, as it doesn't always align with what the ego desires to hear. Instead, it informs the soul of what it must do. Herein lies what Thoth considers the ultimate challenge. When you begin to access this inner voice and sense its quiet truth, the mind realizes it is losing control. That's when it devises its most elaborate snare. It dons a spiritual facade, whispering, "Now you're different from everyone else. Now you hold more wisdom. Now you stand above the rest." It will attempt to convince you that you're exceptional, that you're superior, and that you've reached a place that others cannot attain. If you fall into this belief, you become ensnared in a trap that ensnares countless spiritual seekers along their journey, the spiritual ego. And now, we arrive at the most sensitive and perilous phase of the spiritual quest, the one Thoth referred to as the final adversary. Not an adversary that howls from the outside, but a gentle murmur that arises from within. A murmur so tender, so alluring that many mistake it for the voice of true enlightenment. This is the ego, yet not the typical ego that craves power, wealth, or recognition. We are referring to the ego that dons a mask of light, masking itself as a teacher, a leader, a redeemer. This is what renders it the most perilous of all. The noted that the ultimate snare isn't found in the external world. It's in the subtle pride that emerges when one begins to perceive themselves as special for having achieved awakening. At that juncture, the seeker risks becoming lost right where they believed they had been found. For the genuine prison is not ignorance but pride cloaked as wisdom. Recognize the peril. The ego does not vanish when you embark on the spiritual journey. It merely changes its appearance. It sheds the obvious garbs of worldly vanity and assumes robes of purity and compassion. Yet beneath that facade, it continues to nourish separation. When you start to think, I am an enlightened being, distinct from those who remain unaware, you've already ensnared yourself, because where there is division, there can be no unity, and absent unity, there can be no authentic enlightenment. This is the reason countless individuals who pursue the light unwittingly cultivate a new form of darkness, spiritual judgment. They observe the world and harbor feelings of superiority for grasping insights that others have yet to recognize. They mistake knowledge for consciousness and confuse information with transformation. And they lose sight of the fact that genuine light is neither loud nor ostentatious, nor does it impose itself. It simply exists, quietly and consistently, illuminating everything around it without requiring acknowledgement. So, how can you tell if you've fallen into this trap? Thoth taught that the spiritual ego makes itself known when you feel compelled to instruct others on how they ought to live. When you silently judge those who are still entrenched in patterns you have already transcended. When you experience frustration with those who aren't progressing at your rate, remember that true illumination doesn't require others to keep pace. It journeys independently, finding peace without rush or pressure. Observe your responses. How do you react when someone challenges your spiritual views? Do you respond with tranquility or defensiveness? Do you show openness or resistance? The spiritual ego constantly seeks validation, always wanting to assert its position, often masking its arrogance with gentle and peaceful language. Yet, enlightened awareness doesn't try to persuade anyone. It doesn't need to prove anything. It inherently understands that every soul has its unique timing and journey. Consequently, it respects the unfolding of others without interference. There's an even subtler aspect to consider. The spiritual ego, in its most deceptive form, derives pride from its supposed humility. It might proclaim things like, I have mastered my ego, I am merely a conduit for the light. However, if you observe closely, these claims reveal a covert desire for acknowledgement. As Thoth cautioned, the truly wise individual doesn't need to declare their wisdom. Their mere silent presence speaks volumes. This is the crucial insight. The ego thrives on the desire to be perceived as exceptional, even in a spiritual context. As long as there is a yearning to be seen as more enlightened, more pure, or more evolved, the ego remains active. Authentic transcendence occurs when you relinquish even that desire, when you stop aspiring to be someone and simply focus on being in the most serene, unadulterated sense of the term. This aspect of the spiritual path becomes a paradox, as the solution isn't to battle the ego in an attempt to conquer it. Instead, you cease to nourish it. And how is the ego sustained? Through comparison, through the unspoken rivalry of who is closer to the light. When you disengage from comparing yourself to others and no longer assess your progress against theirs, the ego begins to lose its strength. Yet few individuals arrive at this stage, as it's simpler to confront the overt ego than to acknowledge the more subtle forms of it. It's more straightforward to release worldly addictions than to quell the inner urge to feel unique. That's why Thoth instructed, remain vigilant until your last breath, for the ego can obscure itself in any recess of your awareness. However, there lies a conclusive test. Can you extend love to someone who remains lost without desiring to alter them? Can you observe a person at the start of their journey and recognize in them the same worth you acknowledge in yourself? If your answer is affirmative, then you've begun to dismantle the ego's final facade. Genuine love does not wait for transformation to express affection. It embraces the present moment, exactly where the other individual is, unconditionally. Yet this phase is not the conclusion of the journey. It merely lays the groundwork for the return to the source, a culminating phase that Thoth regarded as the greatest enigma. A state where distinctions of I and you no longer exist. No more paths to traverse, only pure, silent existence. And this is when the unavoidable question arises: are you prepared to release even your spiritual identity? For it is only those who navigate through that ultimate threshold who can finally revert to their original essence. In that instance, something profound occurs, a silent shift. There are no celebrations, no grand displays. The ego anticipated a magnificent spectacle at the moment of ultimate enlightenment, yet what manifests is a profound inner stillness, a stillness that doesn't seek applause. In this moment, you come to a realization. Everything you sought, everything you labored to attain, had always resided within you. Not as a conquest, but as an eternal presence that was never absent. They referred to this moment as conscious unity. Here, there is no division between you and the cosmos. There are no seekers or sought after, no masters or disciples, just a unified landscape of consciousness flowing effortlessly. The urge to seek answers dissipates, for you come to understand that life, in its simplicity, already embodies the answer. Questions cease to exist because there is no one remaining to inquire. There exists only being. And how is this manifested in daily life? In a surprisingly straightforward manner. It's not a state where you simply drift away or abandon your earthly duties. Instead, conscious unity unfolds when you breathe mindfully, when you sense the breeze against your skin, and when you sip water, acknowledging the wonder in that straightforward act. It's in each commonplace action that transforms into something sacred, not due to a change in the action itself, but because of a shift in your awareness. In this context, spirituality merges with life itself rather than standing apart from it. You no longer require elaborate ceremonies or intricate techniques to feel that connection. Simply being fully present where you are, without longing to be elsewhere, is sufficient. It's a state of profound simplicity where the present moment suffices, devoid of anxiety regarding the future. They've stated, the greatest spiritual realization is to live authentically, not with apathy, but with openness. To breathe and experience life as it unfolds without attempting to manipulate it, without wishing for it to be different, for in that state there is no resistance, and where there is no resistance, the source's energy flows abundantly. However, remain aware, for even in this state, the mind might seek to define this experience, to label it or share it excessively, chasing validation for achieving that state. Yet genuine conscious unity transcends explanation. It can only be experienced. It's not a badge you wear. Rather, it embodies a quiet way of existing. Here's the most intriguing aspect. Even within that unity, you remain human. You still experience emotions, encounter difficulties, and navigate the world. However, everything occurs within a more expansive context, a context where suffering doesn't hold you captive, where joy doesn't need to endure to be genuine. Both pain and joy are recognized as fleeting expressions of the same eternal consciousness. Many people misunderstand this, believing that returning to the source signifies the end of practical life, as though someone who has attained this state is exempt from paying bills, fulfilling family responsibilities, or handling daily affairs. Yet, Thoth was unequivocal. The journey back to the source doesn't remove you from the world. It changes how you navigate through it. Life continues to unfold, but you are no longer lost within the happenings. You witness them and engage with them, but without becoming attached to them. When you reach this moment, when everything quiets down and the distinction between you and the universe fades, that is when Thoth shares the secret he never inscribed, but only whispered to those truly prepared to listen. This secret isn't some obscure code or a forgotten method found within ancient texts. It's something far more straightforward and consequently much deeper. He stated, "Nothing can be lost within the soul. Everything can be remembered." At first glance, this may come across as merely a beautiful metaphor, but if you explore it, you'll see the profound impact it carries throughout your entire existence. From the dawn of your being, even before your physical arrival, you have held within you all the wisdom, all the memories, and the connection to the source. Even if life caused you to forget, even if eons passed and you felt lost, the truth was never absent. It simply became concealed beneath layers of forgetfulness. Envision your soul as a tranquil, deep lake. Though the surface may be disturbed by the world's waves, creating distractions, fears, desires, and confusion, the depths of the lake remain serene, unscathed, reflecting the truth that was always present. Even amidst feelings of disconnection, emptiness, or bewilderment, that quiet depth persists, waiting patiently for you to remember. The taught that forgetting is nothing more than a fleeting cloud, whereas the soul's memory is everlasting. You might have identified with suffering, trauma, failures, and illusions for many years. An experience that defies description, yet it subtly alters your feelings, perceptions, and very essence. When Thoth referred to complete awakening, he wasn't indicating a distant state exclusive to masters or enlightened individuals. He was expressing something accessible to any soul willing to cease their external quest and begin an inward journey of remembrance. Here lies the promise fulfilled from the outset of your path. When you embody what has been highlighted, when you cease resisting and simply allow yourself to be, this remembrance shifts from mere theory to a living essence. At this point, you grasp a crucial truth. You are not merely the character acting out transient dramas and narratives. You are not the fear that has immobilized you on countless occasions. You are not the pain that has marked you during challenging times. You are the observer of it all, the one who remained untouched by those experiences even as you endured them. You are akin to the sky that remains unaffected as both dark and bright clouds drift by. The sky does not identify with the clouds, it simply observes them. That is your true essence. In this understanding, life unfolds around you, yet you no longer confuse yourself with it. Challenges may arise, but they do not dictate your identity. Emotions may surface, but they no longer sway you as they once did. Even spiritual trials that once seemed like barriers are now recognized as natural components of the journey rather than threats. And here lies the ultimate forbidden truth, one that has been concealed throughout history. A human who has awakened to their true nature cannot be controlled or manipulated by external systems, restrictive beliefs, imposed fears, or any framework that thrives on collective amnesia. When the soul reconnects with its true identity, all attempts at manipulation become futile. True power resides not outside, but within. It always has. An experience that defies description, yet subtly changes everything you feel, everything you perceive, and everything you are. When Thoth discussed complete awakening, he wasn't alluding to an elusive state reserved solely for masters or distant enlightened beings. He was referring to something that's accessible to every soul that chooses to cease the outward search and begin the inner remembrance. This is the realization of the promise made at the start of your journey. When you engage in the practices that have been disclosed, when you stop resisting and simply exist, the remembrance transforms from mere theory into a living reality. Here, you come to a crucial understanding. You are not the character in fleeting dramas and narratives. You aren't the fear that has immobilized you countless times. You are not the pain that has marked you during challenging periods. You are the observer of it all, the one untouched by those experiences, even though you have endured them. You resemble the sky that remains unchanged while dark and bright clouds drift by. The sky doesn't connect itself to the clouds, it merely observes them. That is your true essence. In this awareness, life proceeds around you, yet you no longer become entangled in it. Challenges emerge, but they do not define your identity. Emotions surface, but they no longer pull you along as they once did. Even spiritual obstacles that once seemed like barriers are now recognized as natural elements of the journey rather than as threats. And here lies the genuine forbidden secret, the truth that many have sought to conceal throughout the ages. Because a person who remembers their true nature can no longer be controlled, can no longer be swayed by external systems, limiting beliefs, imposed fears, or by any structures that thrive on collective amnesia. When the soul reconnects with its essence, all methods of control fall flat. True power has never been found externally. It has always resided within. It's always resided quietly within you, waiting for the moment you'd pause and simply acknowledge it. This marks the instant when fear vanishes, since there's nothing left to guard, nothing left to pursue. Everything that might have been lost no longer determines your identity. Likewise, everything that could be acquired doesn't contribute anything to who you've always been. It's a place of total liberation, not in the sense of doing whatever you wish, but in the sense of no longer being confined by anything, not by circumstances, not by others' perceptions, and not by life's fluctuations. When you exist this way, there's no arrogance or superiority. There's just tranquility, a serene calm that accompanies you in all your endeavors, because the need to validate your existence fades away. Life becomes effortless. Even during challenging times, there's a peace that remains untouched by outside forces. Your assurance no longer stems from external factors, it originates from within. However, this doesn't imply that you'll no longer experience emotions or that your life will achieve perfection in the human sense. You will still experience both joy and sorrow, continue to make choices and face obstacles. The key difference is that now you understand all of this is merely part of the transient experience of existence, which doesn't affect your true self. Consequently, suffering loses its weight. It still occurs, but it no longer pulls you down. This remark represents the genuine awakening to recall who you have always been, even while navigating the game of life. It's about engaging with the world without becoming lost in it, about dancing with existence. Yet, always remember the silence that observes the dance. Now, there is nothing further to seek because what you've been searching for from the start has been within you all along. And at this point, you don't just accept this as an idea, you genuinely feel it, and no one can take that feeling away from you. If you've reached this point, it's because something inside you has begun to remember. So, share in the comments what part of this message resonated with you the most. Write something like this: I am remembering who I am. I want to see who really felt this shift right now. Also, if you'd like to support this channel in spreading more content like this worldwide, there's a special link in the first pinned comment through which you can contribute directly and join this mission. Every bit of assistance you provide helps this message reach those who need it the most. Before you leave, pay attention. I've selected a special video right here on the screen so we can continue this journey together. That's where I'll reveal the next essential key to this awakening. So, click on it and meet me there.